Well, hello there. That was awfully fine music. If you want, you can clap. That's okay. Well, hello there. But before you ask, yes, I was there. I was there that night on that hill with the sheep. That's what we do. Well, did. I'm retired now. I live with my daughter. But yeah, I'm a shepherd. Sit on that hill with the sheep. You have lots of time to think, lots of time to listen. Listen to the wind. The wind talks, you know. Listen to the stream flow down the hill. They say the bubbling of the stream is the voice of God. Listen to the grass. Have you ever heard grass grow? So I should have known. I should have known something was up because a few days before that night, the wind shifted just a little, and the brook, the stream, it had a slightly different song, and the grass, it grew tense, like it was waiting for something big, a volcano or an earthquake, but still, I was terrified. Who wouldn't be? The light. It was all light. It wasn't nice and neat like Luke seems to make it with little fluttery figures. It was all light. Light. And a voice. I've never experienced such voice. Coming from everywhere and nowhere at the same time, coming from inside of me and outside of me, coming from the sky and underneath the ground, like it was coming from the very womb of the cosmos. That voice. Don't be afraid. Yeah, right. Don't be afraid when the voice is coming out of the womb of the cosmos. Don't be afraid. And then you know the rest from Luke. You know, good news, great joy, Messiah, Bethlehem, baby. Not that I really understood it. I mean, I'm no Torah scholar. In fact, don't tell anyone, but I've never even been to the temple or one of those newfangled synagogue things. No, the grass, the stream, the wind, that's my temple. The bubbling of the brook, that's my prayer. And then it's like all of creation just let loose, like the grass started singing, and the brook started singing, and the sky started singing, and the trees started singing, and the rocks started singing this strange, eerie song. Luke cleaned that up too. I couldn't give it words. All I know is there was this deep sense of hope and peace and joy like I've never before experienced. So we went down to Bethlehem. Well, some of us went. A couple of the shepherds slept through it. If you can imagine sleeping through that, they slept through it. And a couple didn't care. And someone who was sober had to stay with the sheep. But we went. We went down to Bethlehem, and we found the stable, and we found Mary, and we found the baby. Mary was tired, but gracious, but didn't let us get too close. I don't think I ever actually saw the baby. I mean, it was clear we were to stay by the door. I mean, my own daughter didn't let me see my grandchildren for 24 hours. You'll get them sick, she said. You smell like sheep, she said. What do you think paid your college tuition? Those sheep. And then we went home. And life went on, as it does. And we didn't think about it. I didn't think about it. Except every once in a while when I would be sitting there on that hill and the wind would shift and the brook would change its tune and the grass would grow a little tense. I'd have this feeling of joy. Little feeling of joy, like the world was shifting just a little. Years later, I saw it. This person they called Jesus. I moved to Bethany with my daughter. Bethany's a town right outside of Jerusalem, and my daughter and her husband had a little stall in the market in Jerusalem. I helped them out some, but mostly I went to this garden called Gethsemane. A bunch of us old shepherds would hang out there. It was the only place in Jerusalem you could hear the grass grow. And occasionally, a young man would show up. I knew who he was. I mean, I hadn't connected one with the other yet, but I knew who he was. Everybody knew who he was, but he was the one who raised Lazarus. And Lazarus was my sister's husband's brother's second cousin. They're stepbrothers, if you're following the genealogy. The word gets around fast in a place called Bethany, but I hadn't connected two and two when I would see him come in the garden. But I noticed whenever he would come into that garden, he would sit, he never talked. He would sit, be silent, like he was listening to the wind, listening to the stream, listening to the grass. And the thing is, the amazing thing is, it seemed as if they were listening. But I didn't connect that manger with this Jesus until I was in Bethany on the street and I saw this man with his mother, and I recognized her instantly, the way she looked at him, the spark in her eye, the way she stood and held herself. She had been a mighty woman in that stable, and she was a mighty woman now. And it clicked. It clicked. And this man, this teacher, this healer had been the very one that the whole cosmos had erupted in song around. It wasn't long after I saw Jesus with his mother that I heard he'd been arrested. I heard he'd been killed in our garden. How dare they? How dare they do such a thing in the only place in Jerusalem where you could hear the grass speak? It was a few days later that I found myself back in the garden. I just sat and I cried. Not for Jesus, I didn't really know him, but for the garden, for the event that had happened there, for the way that the grass had been turned into mud, the way that the creek had been filled with trash, the way the wind had just stopped blowing. The sword lay in the weeds, and it was silent, like all creation had stopped its song. And I sat there, and I cried. And then, as the sun came up, I noticed the grass starting to perk its way up through the mud. I noticed that the brook had found a song through all the trash and the footprints left behind. I noticed that the wind had changed direction and picked up. I noticed that a rock sitting on the ground, bloodied from the conflict, had started singing, and I heard from deep within myself and outside of myself, from somewhere and nowhere, from below and above, from the very womb of the cosmos, I heard that song the angels had sung so long ago. And then I knew. Baby Bethlehem, Messiah, goodness, great joy. And I felt sitting there in the one place in Jerusalem you could hear the grass grow. Sitting there